My name is Eleanor Johnson. I am 55 years old, and there is one night that marked my life forever. That night I understood that a mother can raise a son for 30 years and lose him in 30 seconds. It all started with a call from my son, Robert. His voice sounded different, more distant, but I didn't want to see it. He told me he was celebrating the birthday of my grandson, Ethan, who was turning 6. Of course, I was going to go. A 12-hour drive from Dallas to Miami. But he was my grandson. He was my blood. I remember before leaving, I took the framed photograph I always kept in my living room. Robert at 6 years old, the same face Ethan has now, with those big eyes and that mischievous smile. I put it in my suitcase along with the gift I had wrapped with so much care, a photo album I had prepared for months, full of memories of our family. 12 hours on the bus, 12 hours thinking about my grandson's hug, about the look on Robert's face when he saw me arrive. I arrived at 7 o'clock in the evening. The house was full of blue and silver balloons. I heard children's laughter inside. I rang the doorbell with my heart pounding hard. Robert opened the door. He didn't smile. "Mum, what are you doing here?" Those 5 words cut through me like a knife, but I smiled because a mother always smiles when something hurts. "Well, I came to see my grandson, son. It's his birthday." Before I could say more, I heard heels clicking on the hardwood floor. It was Holly, my daughter-in-law. She planted herself in front of me with her arms crossed, her face red with fury. "Robert, did you tell your mother to come?" I mentioned the birthday to her, but this can't be happening." Her voice rose so loud that the children inside stopped laughing. "Either she leaves or I leave. I'm not going to share my house with this woman." My son looked at me. I looked at him, and in that moment I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Fear, but not fear of losing me. Fear of losing her. "Mum." His voice trembled. Maybe it's better if you go." The world stopped. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just squeezed the suitcase against my chest, where I still carried that photograph and the album that never made it into my grandson's hands. "It's fine, son," I said with a calmness I didn't feel. "I'll go." I walked toward the street. I heard the door close behind me. I didn't turn around. That night, I slept in a hotel near the terminal. I cried everything I hadn't cried in front of them. But something inside me changed that night. Something broke, and something else began to awaken. A week later, my phone rang at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was Robert. His voice sounded desperate. "Mum, are you there?" "Yes, son, I'm here." "Mum, I need your help. It's urgent. I need $50,000. It's life or death." I remained silent. $50,000. Half of my life savings from working as a teacher. "What do you need it for, son?" "I can't explain now. Just, please. You've always been there for me. This time too, right?" I closed my eyes. I saw his face in that doorway. I heard his words. "Maybe it's better if you go." And then I said 5 words. Only 5. 5 words that would change everything. But that, I'll tell you later. Sometimes we trust too much in the wrong people. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read them. Before I tell you what I said to my son that morning, I need you to understand something. I loved Robert before he was born. When I was 25 and pregnant with him, my husband, James, left me. He disappeared one October morning with a younger woman, leaving me alone with a 7-month belly and a broken heart. But I never told Robert that. I didn't want him to carry that pain. I raised him alone. I worked a double shift as an elementary school teacher, teaching classes in the morning and tutoring in the afternoon. Robert was my entire world. I remember mornings in our little house in Dallas. I would prepare coffee and blueberry muffins, and he would run down the stairs with his backpack on backward, always running late. I would braid his hair when he was little, clean his scraped knees, hug him when he had nightmares. "Mum, you're never going to leave, right?" he asked me once when he was 8 years old. "Never, my love. Mums never leave." On Sundays, we would go to the farmer's market. He would carry the bags, even though they were bigger than him. He would help me choose the ripe tomatoes, always choosing the brightest ones. Then we would sit in the park to eat ice cream. Vanilla for him, strawberry for me. I took that photograph I carried to Miami on one of those Sundays. Robert was 6, the same age as Ethan now. He was smiling, showing the gap where he had lost a tooth. Behind him, you could see the magnolia tree in the park. That day, he told me, "Mum, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a huge house so you never have to work so hard." I kept that promise in my heart like a treasure. I watched him grow. I watched him become a good, responsible man. He studied business administration, got a good job in Miami. I was so proud. He met Holly at a business conference. At first, she was charming to me. She called me her mom-in-law, sent me pictures of my newborn grandson. But something changed after the first year of marriage. The calls became shorter, the visits were cancelled. Robert always had an excuse. Too much work. Holly wasn't feeling well. The boy was sick. I didn't say anything. A mother knows when to stay quiet. But that night, at the door of his house, when he asked me to leave, when he chose Holly over me after a 12-hour drive, something broke inside me. It wasn't just the humiliation. It was the realization that the boy who carried my grocery bags, the one who promised me a big house, the one who hugged me during nightmares, no longer existed. In his place was a man who closed the door in my face in front of his wife and son. That week after returning to Dallas was the darkest of my life. I sat in my living room, looking at that same framed photograph. Robert at 6, Ethan at 6. The same face, but the same heart. At night I wondered where I had gone wrong. Had I indulged him too much? Hadn't I taught him to value sacrifice? Or had I simply raised a son who only learned to love me when it was convenient for him? And then, that morning, the phone rang. His desperate voice. $50,000. Urgent. And I, looking at that photograph in my living room, understood something that broke my soul and freed me at the same time. Sometimes the person you love the most is the one who needs to learn the most. As I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. Now that I think about it clearly, the first fracture wasn't that night in Miami. It was much earlier. So subtle I almost didn't see it. It was at Robert and Holly's wedding 7 years ago. I had saved for 2 years to help them with the ceremony. It wasn't much, but it was all I had. $20,000 that I kept in a yellow envelope inside my dresser. I gave it to Robert 3 months before the wedding. "Son, this is for you and Holly, to get you started right." He hugged me. He cried. He told me I was the best mother in the world. But when the wedding day arrived, something strange happened. Holly had organized everything. The ballroom, the flowers, the music. It was a beautiful wedding, I'll admit. But when it came time for the ceremony, I sat in the 3rd row. The 3rd. The groom's mother in the 3rd row. In the 1st row were Holly's parents, Mr. Albert and Mrs. Martha, in their elegant suits and perfect smiles. In the 2nd row, the wedding party, and me in the back. Robert didn't say anything, and neither did I. During the party, Holly introduced me to her friends. This is Eleanor, Robert's mum. She works at a little school in Dallas. A little school, as if my 30-year career was something small, insignificant. But what hurt the most was the first dance. Traditionally, the groom first dances with his mother, but Holly insisted on changing the order. Robert danced with her first, then with Holly's mother, and finally with me. 2 minutes. We danced 2 minutes. "Mom, you look beautiful," he said as we spun. "Thank you, son." Holly wanted everything to be modern, less traditional. "It's fine, son. It's your day." I lied. It wasn't fine. But a mother learns to smile even when her heart aches. After the wedding, things changed faster. Robert called me less. When I called him, he was always busy. Holly was always there, in the background, saying something I couldn't quite hear. When Ethan was born, I traveled to Miami to meet him. I stayed at their house for only 3 days. Holly made it clear that my help wasn't needed. "Eleanor, I have everything under control. Besides, my mum is coming tomorrow." Holly's mum stayed for 3 weeks. For Ethan's first birthday, they had a big party. I brought a gift, a stuffed teddy bear I had hand-knitted for months. Holly received it with a cold smile. "How lovely, Eleanor. We'll put it away." I never saw Ethan with that teddy bear. Christmas became a negotiation. I invited Robert to spend the holidays in Dallas. He always had an excuse. "Mum, this year we're going to the Caribbean with Holly's family." "Mum, Ethan is too little to travel." "Mum, next year is better." Next year never came. Little by little, my son drifted away. Not with cruel words, not with yelling. He simply faded out of my life like smoke, and I let it happen. Because I thought that if I stayed quiet, if I didn't complain, if I didn't bother him, he would come back. But he didn't. Until that night of Ethan's birthday, when I decided I had waited long enough. When I took my savings, bought that bus ticket, and travelled 12 hours to see my grandson, and my son closed the door in my face. That week after returning to Dallas, I cried. I cried for all the years I stayed quiet, for all the times I swallowed my pain not to inconvenience him, for believing that my silence would buy his love. And then that call came at 2 o'clock in the morning. $50,000. "Mum, you've always been there for me. This time too, right?" I stared at the ceiling of my room. I thought about the 3rd row at his wedding, about the teddy bear my grandson never used, about the Christmases I spent alone, about that door that closed in my face. And I thought, how long? How long must a mother give without receiving anything in return? How long must she stay quiet while they treat her as if she doesn't matter? I took a deep breath. And then I said those 5 words. "I want to be honest with you. I wasn't a perfect mother, but I was a mother who loved too much, and that was my mistake." After that wedding, when I saw the signs that I was losing my son, I tried everything to get him back, but every attempt dragged me down further. I called Robert every Sunday. If he didn't answer, I waited. If he answered and sounded annoyed, I would cut the conversation short. I learned to ask, "How is my grandson?" carefully. "Good, Mum. Growing up. And you? How's work?" "Everything's fine. Busy. I have to go." 3-minute conversations. That was all that was left of us. Holly posted everything on social media. I saw the pictures, Ethan at the beach with Grandma Martha, Robert hugging Holly's parents on Christmas, family gatherings where I was never present. And I liked every photo. I commented, "So beautiful. Blessings." as if that would bring me closer to them. Once, on Robert's birthday, I sent a cake to his office. Chocolate with strawberries, his favorite since he was a child. It cost almost $900 to send it from Dallas to Miami, but I wanted him to know I was thinking of him. He sent me a message 2 days later. "Thanks, Mum." 2 words, I replied. "I love you, son. I hope you had a beautiful day." He never answered, but I kept trying, because that's what mothers do, right? We keep loving even if they ignore us. We keep calling even if they don't answer. We keep giving even if we never receive. On Christmas 2 years ago, I decided to make one last effort. I saved for months and bought plane tickets to go to Miami. 3 days, that's all. I didn't want to bother them. I called Robert to tell him, "Son, I bought tickets to visit you for Christmas. Just 3 days. I want to see Ethan." There was a long silence. "Mum, this year is going to be complicated." "Why, son? It's only 3 days." "Well, Holly, you know, has plans with her family, and the house is small, and I can stay in a hotel, son. I just want to see you all." Another silence. "Let me talk to Holly, and I'll call you back." He never told me anything. The tickets expired. I spent that Christmas alone, looking at the photograph of Robert at 6 years old, wondering where that boy who hugged me and told me I was his favorite mum had gone. But even then, I didn't give up. I sent gifts to Ethan every month: clothes, toys, books. Holly would receive them and send a brief thanks via text. Never a photo of Ethan using them. Never a video call so I could watch him open the presents. My friends told me, "Eleanor, why do you keep insisting? That boy doesn't appreciate you." "He's my son," I replied. "Sons go through phases. He'll get over it." But he didn't get over it, and I became smaller. I stopped calling so much. I stopped asking. I stopped sending gifts that no one appreciated. I became a shadow in my own son's life, waiting for crumbs of his attention. That's why, when I heard about Ethan's birthday, something woke up in me. A little voice that said, "Go. Do it for yourself. Don't wait for an invitation that will never come." I bought that bus ticket. 12 hours of travel. I wrapped that photo album with all the love I had saved up. And I went, because I still believed that if he saw me, if he looked me in the eyes, he would remember. He would remember all the times I stayed up late, caring for him when he was sick. He would remember the sacrifices. He would remember that I was his mother. But when he opened that door and said, "Mum, what are you doing here?" When he asked me to leave while Holly yelled, when I heard that door slam shut, I knew the truth. It wasn't a phase. He wasn't going to change. My son had chosen, and I was not his choice. I returned to Dallas. I put that photograph away in a drawer. I couldn't look at it anymore without feeling pain. And then, a week later, the phone rang at 2 o'clock in the morning. "Mum, I need $50,000. It's urgent." There he was again, looking for me only when he needed me. And I, sitting in the darkness of my room, understood something. A mother's love shouldn't be an ATM. It shouldn't be something you only look for when you need money or help. Love should be reciprocity, respect, presence. And I no longer had any of that from my son. So I took a deep breath, and I said those 5 words. I still wonder if I did the right thing. And you, what would you have done in my place? "Mum, please, I need that money. It's life or death." His voice sounded desperate, broken, like when he was a child and came crying because he had fallen off his bicycle. But he wasn't a child anymore. He was a 30-year-old man who had closed the door in my face just a week ago. "Life or death?" I asked. keeping my calm. Explain it to me, Robert. It's complicated. Holly and I have problems, financial ones. We invested in a business that went bad. We're being sued. If we don't pay in 3 days, we're going to lose the house. The house. That house where I wasn't allowed to enter on my grandson's birthday. And why don't you get a loan from the bank? I already tried. They rejected us. Mum, only you can help us. You know if I had any other option, I wouldn't be calling you. If I had any other option. Those words stuck in my chest like thorns. So I'm your last option, son. Not your mother. Not the person who raised you alone, who worked double shifts to give you a career. I'm just your last option when everyone else told you no. Mum, it's not that. Did you call Holly's parents? They have money. I've seen them in the photos, the trips, the restaurants. Silence. They already helped us last year. We can't ask them for more. But you can ask me, even though you humiliated me a week ago, even though you didn't even let me see my grandson. Mum, I'm sorry. Really. Holly was upset about something else, and I'm sorry. But now I need you to help me. We're family, we're family. I got out of bed and walked to the window. Outside, Dallas was sleeping. The streets were empty. I thought about those $50,000, half of everything I had saved. 30 years of working, 30 years of sacrifice. And what about Holly? I asked. Does she know you're calling me? Another silence. No, she's asleep. So you're calling me in secret? Mom, please, don't complicate things. Yes or no? Are you going to help me or not? And there it was, the naked truth. He wasn't calling to apologize. He wasn't calling because he missed me. He wasn't calling because he had finally understood the pain he caused me. He was calling because he needed money. I took a deep breath. I looked toward my room, where in the drawer I kept that photograph of him at 6, the boy who promised to take care of me when he grew up, the boy who no longer existed. Robert, I said with a voice that was no longer pleading, hurt, or submissive. Do you remember your wedding? What? Mum, what are you talking about? Your wedding. I gave you $20,000, all my savings at that time, so you could start your life with Holly. Yes, Mum, and I thanked you. You sat me in the 3rd row, you danced with me for 2 minutes, and Holly introduced me as the one from the little school in Dallas. Mum, that was years ago. Why are you bringing that up now? Because I need you to understand something, son. For 7 years, I've given you everything without asking for anything in return. Calls you don't answer, gifts no one appreciates, Christmases you cancel. And when I finally gathered the courage to go see you, you kicked me out of your house. Mum, I haven't finished. Now you come asking me for $50,000, half of everything I have, and you don't even have the courage to tell your wife you're calling me. Mum, please, I promise this time will be different. When I get out of this, things are going to change, I swear. The promises of a desperate son, the same promises I had heard for years. Did you know I kept the photo album I brought for Ethan? I told him. It never made it into his hands. I brought it back in my suitcase. I spent months making it. Photos of you when you were a child. Photos of us. Our history. I thought that way my grandson would know who his grandmother is. Mum, we can talk about that later. Now I need an answer. Yes or no? Yes or no? As if my love, my sacrifice, my pain, everything was reduced to 2 options. Son, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to listen carefully. Are you going to help me? I've spent my whole life helping you. Now it's time for you to learn something. What? What am I going to learn, Mum? That my own mother is turning her back on me when I need her most? No, son. You're going to learn that actions have consequences, that you reap what you sow, that respect isn't begged for, it's earned. So you're not going to help me. His voice sounded incredulous, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. And then, looking out that window, feeling the weight of 30 years of unrequited love, I said those 5 words. The same 5 words that would change everything. 5 words my son never expected to hear from my mouth. Reap what you have sown, son. 5 words. Only 5. But I felt the air between us split in 2. What? His voice was a whisper. What did you say? I said, reap what you have sown. Are you telling me no? I'm telling you that for 30 years I sowed love in you, and for the last 7 I've only harvested forgetfulness. Now it's your turn to harvest, son. The silence on the other end of the line was so profound I could hear my own heart beating. 1, 2, 3 seconds, 10, 20. I can't believe this, he finally said, and his voice was no longer pleading. It was cold, hard. I can't believe my own mother is doing this to me. I'm doing this to you? Something broke inside me. Me, Robert? I'm the one who's doing something to you? I'm going to lose my house. My son is going to be out on the street. And you give me fortune cookie phrases. Your son, my grandson, the boy you wouldn't let me see on his birthday. That was different. Holly was upset. She's always upset. And you always choose her. Always. So now face the consequences of your choices. He stopped. He took a breath. When he spoke again, his voice trembled with suppressed rage. All my life you told me a mother is always there for her children. Always. No conditions. That's what you taught me. And I was there. Always. But you, son? Were you there for me? When was the last time you asked me how I was? When was the last time you called me without needing something? I don't have time for this. I need that money now. No. That word. So short. So simple. So liberating. No. He repeated, as if he didn't understand the meaning. Just like that? No. Just like that. No. Then let it be clear, Mom. If you don't help me now, don't ever look for me again. Don't call again. Don't send gifts no one wants. It's over. My heart stopped. Those words were the final threat, the ultimatum, him or nothing. But instead of feeling fear, I felt something strange. I felt peace. It's fine, son, I said with a calmness that surprised me. If that's the price of my dignity, I'll pay it. What? That I accept. If our relationship depended on how much money I could give you, then we never had a real relationship. So go ahead, end it. You're crazy. You were always dramatic. But this is... You know what, Robert? For 30 years, I carried the guilt of your father abandoning us. I thought if I gave you everything, if I loved you twice as much, if I filled that void, you would never feel that pain. Don't bring my father into this. But I was wrong. I didn't make you stronger. I made you dependent. I taught you that Mum was always going to be there to rescue you, to give you what you needed, to ask nothing in return. And that's how you raised a man who believes love is begged for, but never given. You don't know anything about me. I know I closed every door in my life so you could open yours. I know I worked myself to exhaustion so you wouldn't know poverty. I know I stayed alone every Christmas so I wouldn't inconvenience your new life. That I know. If you sacrificed so much, why are you throwing it in my face now? I'm not throwing it in your face, son. I'm just telling you that I'm no longer going to keep giving without receiving even respect. I'm no longer going to keep begging for crumbs of your attention. I'm no longer going to keep being invisible in your life until you need money. This is incredible. You know what? Holly was right about you. Those words, like knives. What did Holly say about me? That you were manipulative, that you always played the victim, that you used guilt to control me. And she was right. All this is manipulation to what, Robert? Tell me, what would I gain by manipulating you? Silence. Holly says you want to separate me from her, that you never liked her, that you've always tried to sabotage our marriage. I sat on the edge of my bed. My legs were shaking, not from fear, from indignation, from pain, from that brutal clarity that comes when you finally see the truth. Robert, listen to me well, because I'm only going to say this once. I don't want to separate you. I'm not sabotaging anything. I just wanted to be a part of your life, to be my grandson's grandmother, to have a relationship with you. That was all. But Holly decided I was a threat. And you let her decide for you. She's my wife. And I am your mother. Why does that mean less? Because she's here with me every day. Because she's my family now. I am your family too. Or I was. Mum, no, we're done. You said if I didn't help you not to look for you again. Fine. I won't. But I want you to know something. This isn't revenge. It's not punishment. It's simply letting go. Letting go of someone who let go first a long time ago. I can't believe you're so selfish. Selfish? Son, I've spent my whole life being selfless, giving you everything, putting you first. This is the first time in 30 years that I've chosen myself. And if that's selfishness, then yes, I'm selfish. You're going to regret this. No, son. I've already regretted many things. Staying quiet when I should have spoken. Begging when I should have walked away. Giving when I should have set boundaries. But I won't regret this. When I lose my house, when my son suffers, it will be your fault. Those words tried to wound me. They tried to make me doubt. They tried to activate that maternal guilt I had carried all my life. But something had changed in me that night. No, Robert, it's not my fault. It's yours. You made bad investments. You decided to live beyond your means. You chose not to ask for help until it was too late. I have nothing to do with your decisions, and I'm no longer going to bear the consequences of them. His voice broke. You're a bad mother. And there it was, the final stab. For a second, those words tore me apart. My whole life had been about being a mother. It was my identity, my purpose. And my son was telling me I was bad at the one thing I had tried to be good at. But then I remembered. I remembered the sleepless nights when he was sick, the meals I didn't eat so he could have more, the dreams I abandoned to pay for his college, the tears I swallowed so he would smile. If being a good mother means letting myself be disrespected, then yes, Robert, I'm a bad mother, and I am at peace with that. Don't call me again. I won't. Seriously? Are you going to let it end like this? You ended this 7 years ago, son. I'm just accepting what you decided a long time ago. Goodbye, Mum. Goodbye, Robert. I hung up the phone, and I stayed there, sitting in the darkness of my room, with the phone still in my hand. I didn't cry. I expected to cry. I expected to feel that sharp pain I always felt when he pulled away from me. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something different, something I hadn't felt in years. I felt lightness, as if I had dropped a weight I had been carrying for so long that I no longer remembered what it was like to walk without it. I got up. I walked to my dresser. I took out the drawer where I had kept the photograph of Robert at 6. I looked at it under the moonlight coming through my window. That beautiful boy. That boy who hugged me and told me I was his favorite mum. That boy who carried my grocery bags and promised me a big house. That boy no longer existed, and it was okay. I kissed the photograph, and I put it in a box at the back of the closet. I didn't throw it away. I never could. But I no longer needed to see it every day. I no longer needed to remember who he was. I needed to remember who I was. Eleanor Johnson, 55 years old, teacher, woman, mother, yes, but also something more. Someone who was worth more than crumbs, someone who deserved respect, someone who had finally learned to say no. That night I slept soundly for the first time in years. I didn't know what would come next. I didn't know if my son would return. I didn't know if I would ever truly know my grandson. But I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer going to beg for love. I was no longer going to beg for attention. I was no longer going to be invisible in anyone's life. I had recovered something I had lost a long time ago. My dignity. The days after that call were strange. I woke up every morning expecting to feel that familiar ache in my chest. That emptiness that had always been there since Robert distanced himself from me. But in its place, there was something different. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't sadness either. It was a kind of calm. Like when a storm ends and the air smells different. I continued my routine. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I prepared my coffee. I looked out the window at the streets of Dallas, waking up. I went to school. I taught my classes. I came home. But something had changed in me. I walked straighter. I spoke more clearly. I smiled differently. My co-workers noticed. "Eleanor, you look good," said Lucy, my friend and colleague of 30 years. "Different. What happened?" "Nothing," I replied. "I just let go of something that wasn't for me anymore." She looked at me with those wise eyes that only women who have lived a lot have. "It was your son, wasn't it?" I nodded. "Do you want to talk about it?" "Maybe someday. Right now I just want to live." And that's what I did. For the first time in years, I lived for myself. But 3 days after that call, things started to get complicated. Holly called me. I saw her name on my phone screen, and my first instinct was not to answer. But something told me I should, that I should close this chapter completely. "Hello," I answered. "Eleanor." Her voice was cold as ice. "I need to talk to you." "Hello, Holly. How are you?" "How am I?" "I'm furious. Do you know what you just did?" "I have an idea." "You denied money to your own son, your own family. Do you know we're going to lose our house? Do you know Ethan is going to suffer because of your selfishness?" I took a deep breath. The old Eleanor would have started to apologize, to explain herself, to justify herself. But that Eleanor no longer existed. "Holly, Robert told you why I told him no. He told me you refused to help him when he needed you most, that you told him to reap what he sowed. Very nice of you, by the way. Did he tell you what happened 2 weeks ago at Ethan's birthday?" Silence. That was a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Holly. You yelled that either I left or you left. And my son chose. He closed the door in my face after I travelled 12 hours to see my grandson. So when he called me asking for money a week later, I decided enough was enough. You are his mother. Mothers are supposed to forgive. And sons are supposed to respect. But that didn't happen, did it? Look, Eleanor. Her tone changed. It softened artificially. I know we've had our differences, and I'm sorry, truly, but this is bigger than our personal problems. This is about Ethan, your grandson. Are you really going to let him suffer? And there it was. The card I knew they would play. The child. My grandson. The guilt. Holly, if you're in financial trouble, there are many options. You can sell the SUV. You can move to a smaller apartment. You can ask your parents for help, who, as I understand it, have more resources than I do. But I am not going to be the bank you only turn to when everyone else has told you no. I can't believe how insensitive you are. I'm not insensitive. I'm a woman who finally understood her worth. Robert was right. You are manipulative, always playing the victim. If that makes you feel better, think it. But the answer is still no. Then I hope you can live with this on your conscience. When your grandson is sleeping on the street, remember it was your fault. Holly, my grandson is not going to sleep on the street. You two are going to solve this like adults. You are going to make difficult decisions. You are going to learn. And maybe, just maybe, you are going to grow. Go to hell, Eleanor. She hung up. I stared at the phone. I expected to feel bad. I expected guilt to devour me. But it didn't happen, because I knew something they didn't understand yet. Helping them with that money wasn't going to solve anything. It was only going to delay the inevitable. It was only going to teach them that there would always be someone to rescue them from their bad decisions. And I could no longer be that person. A week later, I received a text message from Robert. It just said, "We lost the house. Hope you're happy." Those words tried to sow guilt in me, but I had already learned something fundamental. I was not responsible for the decisions of my adult son. I replied, "I'm sorry you're going through this. I wish you the best." There was no response. During the following days, social media filled with photos of Robert and Holly moving out. Holly's parents appeared in the images helping them pack. There was a photo of Ethan saying goodbye to his house with tears in his eyes. That photo hurt me. It hurt me like nothing else. My grandson, that child I had wanted to know, that child who carried my blood, that child who was suffering. Lucy found me crying in the school bathroom. "Oh, Eleanor," she hugged me. "What happened?" "My grandson, Lucy. He's crying because he's losing his house, and I could have prevented it." "No," Lucy held my face. "You couldn't have prevented anything. Your son's decisions led to this, not yours." "But he's my grandson. He's innocent in all this." "I know. And it's terrible. But Eleanor, if you had given that money, what would have happened? Do you think your son would have learned? Do you think he would have respected you more? Or do you think he would have simply come back to you the next time he needed something?" I knew she was right, but it hurt. God, how it hurt. "Sometimes," Lucy continued, "love means letting people face the consequences of their actions, even if it hurts, even if they feel like the worst people in the world. I feel like the worst grandmother in the world. You are a grandmother who never had a chance to be a grandmother, and that is not your fault." That night, alone in my house, I took out the photo album I had made for Ethan, the one that never made it into his hands. I opened it, page after page of our family history. Photos of baby Robert, photos of us at the park, photos of his birthdays, his graduations, his achievements. At the end of the album, I had left blank pages. For the photos with Ethan we never took, for the memories we never made. I cried over those empty pages. I cried for the relationship I never had with my grandson, for the hugs I never received, for the words, "I love you, Grandma," I never heard. I cried for my son, for the man he had become, for the boy he had been who no longer existed. But I also cried for myself, for the years I had wasted, begging for love, for the times I had accepted crumbs, for all the time I had spent waiting for things to change. The next morning, I made a decision. I put the album in a box, along with the photograph of Robert at 6, along with all the gifts I had bought and never sent, along with the letters I wrote and never sent. I closed the box, put it in the closet, and closed the door. It wasn't about forgetting, it was about letting go. 2 weeks later, I found out through Facebook that Robert, Holly, and Ethan had moved to a small apartment on the outskirts of Miami. Holly's parents had loaned them money for 3 months' rent. They had sold their second car. They had sold many of their furniture. The photos showed a reduced space, very different from the big house where I had not been welcome. Holly posted a status that said, "Just when you thought you could count on your family, it turns out blood means nothing. Thanks to those who were there when we needed them most." It was clearly directed at me. The comments filled with support for her, people who didn't know the whole story, people who only saw her version. Some people who knew me wrote asking what had happened. I simply told them it was a private family matter. My siblings called me. They knew something about the situation. "Eleanor, is it true you denied Robert money?" my older sister Patricia asked me. "Yes." "Why? He's your son." "Because I can no longer continue to rescue him from the consequences of his decisions. Because I deserve respect. Because love is not unidirectional. But he's your son," she repeated, as if that explained everything. "And I am his mother. And he treated me as if I was worth nothing. Patricia, how long must I keep giving without receiving anything in return? How long must I accept being invisible until they need something?" Patricia sighed. "It's complicated, Eleanor." "No, it's not complicated anymore. It's simple," he decided. And so did I. Family forgives. Forgives, but doesn't forget. And doesn't permit. I forgave him 1,000 times, but I'm not going to allow disrespect anymore. Patricia sighed. "I just hope you don't regret it." If there's one thing I regret, it's not having done this sooner. A month after Ethan's birthday, I no longer expected my phone to ring with his number. I no longer checked social media looking for signs that he missed me. I no longer fantasized about an apology. I had accepted the loss. I had lost my son. Perhaps a long time ago. Perhaps I had never truly had him. Not in the way I thought. I had lost my grandson. A child who would never know his grandmother. Who would never hear our family stories. Who would never know how much I loved him. I had lost the fantasy of being a happy family, of Christmas gatherings, of Sundays together, of being a part of their lives. But in that loss, I had gained something more valuable. I had gained myself. One afternoon, cleaning my house, I found an old letter Robert had written to me when he was 10 for Mother's Day. It read, "Dear Mum, you are the best mum in the world. When I grow up, I'm going to take care of you the way you take care of me. I promise I will never leave you alone. I love you, Robert." I read that letter and instead of crying, I smiled sadly. That 10-year-old boy had really believed it. He had really wanted to take care of me. He had really loved me unconditionally. But people change. Children grow up. Promises are forgotten. And it was okay. I put the letter away again, and I continued with my day, because life went on. My life went on. And for the first time in years, I was the center of my own life. I was no longer just Robert's mum. I was no longer just the woman who sacrificed for her son. I was Eleanor, a 55-year-old woman, a teacher, a friend, a sister, a person with self-worth. And that was enough. That night, I prepared my coffee. I sat on my patio. I looked at the stars over Dallas. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel loneliness. I felt freedom. 2 months had passed since that call. 2 months since I said no, for the first time in 30 years. Life had continued its silent course. Classes at school, coffee with Lucy, afternoons reading on my patio, Sundays at the farmer's market, now only buying for myself. I had learned to cook small portions, to enjoy the silence, not to wait for the phone. But then, one Tuesday afternoon, I received a message from an unknown number. "Eleanor, this is Martha, Holly's mum. Could we talk?" My first instinct was to ignore it. I didn't owe that woman anything. But something in me, that part that still wanted to understand, made me reply. "Sure. When?" "Tomorrow. At the downtown coffee shop. 4 o'clock. I accepted. That night I barely slept. What did she want to tell me? Was she coming to complain? To ask for money for her daughter? I arrived at the coffee shop 5 minutes early. She was already there. Mrs. Martha, the perfect woman who always appeared in Facebook photos with her elegant clothes and impeccable smile. But the woman I saw sitting at that table didn't look like the photos. She looked tired, older, small. "Eleanor," she said as I approached. "Thank you for coming." "Mrs. Martha," I replied, sitting across from her. We were silent for a few seconds. The waiter came, and I ordered a regular coffee. She already had a cup of tea in front of her, untouched. "I don't know how to start this," she finally said. "Start as you can." She took a deep breath. "My daughter told me what happened. Everything. Ethan's birthday, Robert's call, the money, your answer." I nodded without saying anything. "And I want you to know," her voice cracked slightly, "I understand why you said no." Those words took me by surprise. "Seriously?" "Yes." She looked up at me. "Because I've done the same. With Holly." The waiter brought my coffee. I took a sip. I needed time to process what I was hearing. "My daughter," Martha continued, "has always been complicated. Since she was a child, she wanted everything, and she believed she deserved everything. My husband and I gave her everything: private school, trips, designer clothes. We never told her no." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because when we found out about the house problem, Albert and I had a very serious conversation. Holly came to ask me for $50,000, the same amount Robert asked you for." I leaned forward. "And?" I told her no. My eyes widened. "But the photos on Facebook? They're lies." "Well, not entirely. We did loan them money, but only $10,000. For 3 months' rent, not 6. And I made it very clear to them it was a loan, not a gift, and they would have to pay it back." "And what did Holly say?" "She got angry. She yelled at me. She said we were her parents, that we had an obligation, that we couldn't leave her on the street." "The same things she surely said to you." "Yes," I admitted. "The same." "Eleanor, I came here because I needed you to know something. Holly has told everyone that you are a terrible mother, that you abandoned your son, that you are selfish. And I kept silent. I let my daughter tell her version. And now? Now I can't stay quiet anymore, because I saw what happened next." "What happened?" Martha picked up her teacup. Her hands were trembling slightly. Robert had to get 2 jobs, one during the day, one at night. Holly had to stop buying expensive clothes. They had to sell the second car. Ethan had to switch from private school to public school. It must be hard for them. It is. She paused. But you know what's strange? For the first time in years, I see them present. Robert comes home tired, but he sits down to dinner with his family. Holly is learning to cook, something she had never done. Ethan is calmer, less spoiled. What are you telling me? That you did the right thing. That saying no was the best thing you could have done for your son, because now he is learning what it means to work, to sacrifice, to appreciate. A lump formed in my throat. Does Holly know you're here? No, and she would be angry if she knew, but I needed to tell you this. I needed you to know that you are not alone, that you are not a bad mother, that sometimes the greatest love is letting people fall so they can learn to get up. You know, I said after a moment, for 2 months I've been wondering if I did the right thing, if I was too harsh, if I should have given him that money. And now? Now I know it wasn't cruelty. It was love, just a different kind of love. The kind of love that says, I trust you can do this alone. I trust you are stronger than you think. Martha smiled sadly. Exactly, but it hurts, I admitted. God, how it hurts. I know. I also cry at night thinking about my grandson, thinking about my daughter. But I know this is temporary. The pain now is temporary, but the lessons they are learning are forever. We remained silent, 2 mothers who had made the most difficult decision, letting go. Does Robert ask about me? I ventured to ask. Martha hesitated. Sometimes, when he's very tired, when things get tough, he tells Holly, maybe I should listen to my mum, but then Holly convinces him you were the bad one, and he keeps quiet. I understand, but there's something else you need to know. What? Last week, Ethan asked me about you. He said, Grandma Martha, why do I never see my other grandma? And I didn't know what to tell him. My heart squeezed. What did you tell him? I told him the truth, that his grandma Eleanor loved him very much, that she lived far away but thought of him every day, and that someday, when he was older, he could meet her if he wanted to. Tears began to run down my cheeks. I couldn't hold them back. Thank you, I whispered. Thank you for telling him that. It's the truth, and Ethan deserves to know the truth. Martha got up to leave, but before she left, she pulled something out of her purse. An envelope. Ethan made this. At school. It was a Mother's Day project. They had to make a card for all the important women in their lives. She handed me the envelope. This one is for you. I took it with trembling hands. Does Holly know you're giving me this? No, and I prefer it to stay that way. But I thought you deserved to have it. She left. I stayed sitting there, holding that envelope. For 5 minutes I didn't dare open it. Finally, I opened it. It was a handmade card with coloured crayons. On the cover, a drawing of a boy and an older woman holding hands. At the top, it read, in childish handwriting, For my grandma Eleanor, I don't know. I opened the card. Inside it read, Dear Grandma, my mum says you live very far away. My dad doesn't talk about you, but I know you exist. Grandma Martha showed me a picture of you. You have pretty eyes like my dad. I want to meet you one day. I hope you love me even though we don't know each other. With love, Ethan. I cried right there, in that coffee shop, in front of strangers who didn't understand anything. I cried for my grandson, who knew of my existence but didn't know me. I cried for the pure words of a child who only wanted to be loved. I cried for all the lost time, but I also felt something else. Hope. Ethan knew I existed. Ethan wanted to know me. And someday, when he was older, when he could make his own decisions, maybe, just maybe, we could have the relationship that had been denied to me. That night I arrived home and did something I hadn't done in months. I took the box out of the closet, the box with the photographs, the album, the memories, but this time I didn't do it with pain. I did it with purpose. I added Ethan's card to the album, on one of those empty pages I had left for the memories we never made, because that was a memory of hope, a memory that said, there is still time, there is still possibility. I didn't know if Robert and I would ever reconcile. I didn't know if Holly would ever accept me. I didn't know if I would meet my grandson before it was too late. But I knew one thing for sure. I had done the right thing. Not out of revenge, not out of pride, not to punish. I had done it out of love, for the true love that teaches, that corrects, that allows people to grow. Time would do its work. Time would show my son that actions have consequences, that respect is important, that love is not just asking but also giving. And when that day arrived, if it arrived, I would be here, not as the desperate mother begging for attention, but as the dignified woman who knew her worth. And that was what Ethan needed to see someday. Not a broken grandmother, but a strong woman who chose to love herself as much as she loved others. I put the album away, put the box away, and went for a walk under the stars of Dallas. The air smelled like rain, like a new beginning, like possibilities. And for the first time in 30 years, I didn't feel like I was losing. I felt like I was winning my peace, winning my dignity, winning my life. And that was more valuable than anything I had lost. 6 months had passed since that night. 6 months in which life continued its silent course, doing what it always does, collecting its debts. I did not seek revenge. I did nothing against my son or Holly. I simply lived, continued with my life, and let time do its work. But time, I have learned, is the wisest judge and the most efficient collector. Everything began to change in December. Lucy arrived at school one day with her phone in her hand, hesitant. "Eleanor, there's something you should see, but I don't know if you want to." "What is it?" She showed me her screen. It was Holly's Facebook profile. But something had changed. There were no more photos with perfect smiles. There were no more posts about expensive restaurants or trips. The last post read, "Sometimes life puts you in your place, teaches you that not everything is as you paint it, that appearances aren't everything, that material things go away, but the harm you do remains. I am learning." The comments asked what had happened. She didn't reply. "What do you think it means?" Lucy asked. "That reality hit," I simply replied. During the following weeks, I put together pieces of information, not because I looked for them, but because they came to me. My sister Patricia called me one day. "Eleanor, did you know Robert is working in construction?" "Yes. I saw him the other day at a site near here. He looked very thin, very tired." "Did you talk to him?" "I asked him how he was. He said he was fine, but his eyes said otherwise. He asked about you." My heart skipped a beat. What did he ask? If I knew about you, if you were well, if you still thought about him. And what did you tell him? I told him the truth, that you were fine, that you looked peaceful, and he just nodded and left. 2 weeks later, Martha wrote to me again. "Eleanor, can we talk?" We met at the same coffee shop. This time Martha looked different, less burdened, almost relieved. "What happened?" I asked her. "Holly and Albert had a very big fight." "Why?" "Because Albert told her they were no longer going to continue loaning them money, that Robert and she had to learn to live with what they earn, that enough was enough." "How did she take it?" "Bad. Very bad. She cried. She yelled. She said we were bad parents, that how could we do that to her? But Albert stood firm, and so did I. I imagine it wasn't easy." "It wasn't. But you know what happened next? Something I never expected." "What?" "Holly. She broke down. Completely. She started talking about things she had never said, about how she felt insufficient, about how she had always tried to pretend that her life was perfect, about how she was afraid Robert would leave her for you." "For me?" "Yes. She confessed to me that she always felt you were a threat, that Robert spoke about you with so much love that she thought she could never compete. So she decided to pull him away from you, little by little, with subtle comments, with complaints, with making every visit uncomfortable." My coffee went cold in my hands as I processed those words. "I never wanted to compete with her," I said softly. "I just wanted to be a part of their lives." "I know. And I think now she knows it too. The other day she told me something. Mum, I think I ruined something I didn't have to ruin." "Did she talk about me?" "Not directly, but we both knew what she was talking about." "And Robert?" Martha sighed. "Robert is different. He works so much he barely has time for anything. But when he's home, he's present. He plays with Ethan, helps with homework, makes dinner when Holly is tired. It's like he's finally understanding what it means to be responsible." "Is he happy?" "I don't know if he's happy, but I know he's learning, and sometimes that's more important than temporary happiness." "Does he ask about me?" Martha looked me in the eyes. "All the time." Those 3 words went right through me. "But he doesn't dare to call you. He's ashamed. He says he doesn't know how to face you after everything that happened." "He doesn't have to face me. He just has to grow." "And he is growing, Eleanor. Slowly, but he is growing." 2 months later, in February, Patricia saw him again, this time at the supermarket. Robert was shopping with Ethan. Patricia told me the boy asked his dad, "Can we buy these cookies?" "No, son. They're too expensive. We'll get these other ones." "But I like those." "I know, but sometimes we can't have everything we like. That's life." Patricia said Ethan pouted but accepted. And Robert hugged him and said, "When Dad saves up a little more, I'll buy you those cookies." "Deal?" "Deal." Patricia told me Robert looked tired, with deep circles under his eyes, but there was something different about him, something more humble. In March, Lucy showed me another post from Holly. It was a photo of her in the kitchen, hair pulled back, no makeup, cooking food. The caption read, "Learning that the important thing is not to pretend, but to be. That a home-cooked meal made with love is worth more than 1,000 expensive restaurants. That humility hurts, but it heals. Forgive those I hurt in my arrogance. I am trying to be better." The comments were full of messages of support, but I knew those words carried my name, even if she didn't say it. In April, something unexpected happened. I received a letter, a physical letter, in the mail, with a man's handwriting, a handwriting I would recognize anywhere. It was from Robert. I sat in my living room with that letter in my hands, not daring to open it for almost an hour. Finally, I took a deep breath and opened it. "Mum, I don't know if you'll read this, I don't know if you want to read anything from me after everything that happened, but I need to write it, even if you never read it. You were right. Those are the hardest words I've ever written, but they are the truest. I am reaping what I sowed. Every day of these 6 months has been a lesson. Every bill I can't pay reminds me of the times I spent without thinking. Every time I say no to Ethan for something he wants but doesn't need, I remember all the times you told me yes, even if you couldn't. I work 14 hours a day. I come home with an aching body and dirty hands. And in those moments, when I'm so tired I can barely move, I think of you. I think of how you worked double shifts when I was a child. I think of your tired hands preparing my food. I think of everything you sacrificed. And I am ashamed. I am ashamed of having closed the door in your face. I am ashamed of having called you only to ask for money. I am ashamed of having treated you as if you didn't matter. Holly and I have talked a lot. She is also changing. She confessed things to me she had never told me. About her insecurities. About how she pushed you away from us because she was afraid. I don't justify what she did, but I understand that we were all wrong. Ethan asks about you. A lot. He has your card saved in his room. Yes, Grandma Martha told us. He looks at it before bed and says, "Someday I'm going to meet my Grandma Eleanor." Mum, I'm not writing to ask for your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm not writing to ask you to come back. I know I don't have that right. I'm writing to tell you that you're making an impact. That your no is teaching me more than all your yeses put together. That your absence is showing me how much you are worth. I'm writing to tell you that I'm trying to be the man you raised, the boy who carried your grocery bags, the boy who promised to take care of you. I'm trying, Mum. I don't know if you can ever forgive me. I don't know if we can ever talk again. But I want you to know that I think of you every day and that I finally understood what everything you did for me meant. With love and shame, Robert. P.S. I kept the photo album, the one you brought for Ethan. I found it in the closet where Holly had hidden it. It's in the living room now. And every night I show my son who you are, who you were, who you will continue to be. His grandmother. I finished reading the letter with tears streaming down my face. They weren't tears of pain. They weren't tears of satisfaction. They were tears of understanding. Life had done its work. Without me lifting a finger, without revenge, without resentment, simply by letting natural consequences teach what my words could not. Robert had learned. He was learning. And that was all I had ever wanted. I didn't need him to beg. I didn't need him to plead for forgiveness. I didn't need him to come on his knees. I just needed to know that he was growing, that he was understanding, that he was becoming the man I always knew he could be. That night I put the letter in the album, next to Ethan's card, next to the old photographs, and I smiled, because justice had arrived, not as punishment, but as a lesson. Life had shown my son what I could not teach him with words, that everything has consequences, that respect is earned, that true love includes boundaries, that growing up hurts, but it is necessary. And I had learned something too, that letting go is not abandonment, that saying no can be the deepest form of love, that sometimes the best way to help someone is to let them fall, because only in the fall do we learn to get up. And my son, finally, was learning to get up alone. Almost 2 years have passed since that night of Ethan's birthday. 2 years since I closed that door and opened another, the door to myself. Today is Saturday. I get up early, as always. I prepare my coffee. I sit on the patio of my house in Dallas and watch the sunrise paint the sky orange and pink. This morning, like every Saturday, I'm going to the farmer's market. But now I'm not going alone. Lucy is coming with me. sometimes Patricia. I even joined a book club with other retired teachers. I discovered that when you stop centering your life on waiting for someone's love, you find love in places you never imagined. Robert's letter is still in my album. I read it sometimes, not with pain, with peace. I replied, yes, but it took me 3 months to do it. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because I needed to be sure that my response came from a place of clarity, not desperation, not need, but choice. I wrote him this: Son, I read your letter. I read it many times, and each time I felt something different. First I felt pain, then relief, then pride, because I finally see the man I always knew you could be. I don't ask you to apologize anymore. You already did, and I accept it. But I need you to understand something. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Forgiving means letting go of resentment, but remembering the lesson. I forgive you. I forgive Holly. I forgive myself for all the times I accepted less than I deserved. But a relationship is not rebuilt with a letter. It is rebuilt with time, with actions, with consistency. If you truly want us to be family again, you will have to prove it, not with words, with deeds, day after day, month after month. And I will be here, not waiting, simply here, living my life, being happy, with or without you in it. Because that is what I finally learned. My happiness does not depend on anyone but me. When you are ready, when Holly is ready, when you can look me in the eyes without shame or pride, only with respect, I will be there. But come as people who understand that love is reciprocal, that family is built, not demanded. Give my grandson a kiss. Tell him his grandmother loves him and is waiting for him, but without rush, with love and dignity. Mum. I sent that letter, and I continued with my life. For 6 months, I heard nothing from him, but this time the silence didn't hurt me, because I understood that Robert needed time, time to process, time to change, time to be ready. And then 3 months ago, something happened. It was Sunday. I was watering the plants on my patio when I heard the doorbell. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door, and there he was. Robert, my son, thinner, with grey hairs he didn't have before, with tired but humble eyes. And next to him, an 8-year-old boy with the same big eyes as his dad, the same eyes as the photograph I kept. Ethan. Hi, Mom, Robert said with a trembling voice. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I know I didn't call ahead. I know maybe you don't want to see us, but Ethan turns 8 next week, and he asked for one gift. The boy took a step forward, shy, beautiful. Are you my Grandma Eleanor? He asked softly. I knelt down to his level. Tears were running down my face. Yes, my love. I'm your Grandma Eleanor. I've wanted to meet you for a very long time. He pulled something out of his backpack. Look, I have your card, the one I made at school. Dad says you saved it. I did save it, and I treasure it. It's one of my most cherished gifts. Ethan smiled, and in that smile I saw Robert at 6. I saw the past and the future. I saw the opportunity to heal. Can I hug you? The boy asked. Of course, my dear. I hugged him. I hugged my grandson for the first time. He smelled like a little boy's soap and chocolate. He was small, but strong, and he hugged me with an intensity that broke and healed me at the same time. When I got up, I looked at Robert. He had tears in his eyes. I came with just Ethan, he said. Holly isn't ready yet, but she asked me to tell you that she's sorry, that she's working on herself, that someday when she's brave enough, She'll come to apologize to you in person. And you? I asked. Are you ready? I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm here, trying, wanting, asking for a chance. I looked at both of them, my son and my grandson, my past and my future. Come in, I said. I have fresh coffee and I think there are some biscuits. Ethan ran in, exploring the house with a child's curiosity. Robert stayed at the door. Mum, Not now, I said softly. Now just, let's come in, have some coffee, get to know Ethan. The rest can wait. He nodded, and he came in. That afternoon was strange, not magical, not perfect, but real. Ethan asked me 1,000 questions about my life, about my job, about Robert when he was a child, and I answered each one with love. Robert stayed quiet most of the time, just observing, watching his son and his mother finally meet. Before they left, Ethan hugged me again. Grandma, can I come another day? You can come whenever you want, my love. Next Sunday? Next Sunday. Robert looked at me. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me, just keep coming, keep trying. That's all I ask. They left, and I stayed in my house, feeling something I hadn't felt in years: completeness. Not because my son had returned, but because I had remained, firm, dignified, without begging, without pleading. And he had returned not because I needed him to, but because he needed to do it. Since that day, Ethan comes every Sunday, sometimes with Robert, sometimes just with Robert, never with Holly. I've asked Robert about her. She's scared, he says. She's afraid you'll reject her, that you hate her. I don't hate her, I always reply, but I'm also not going to beg her to come. When she's ready, I'll be here. And it's true, I don't feel hate, I feel neutrality. Holly made her decisions. Now she lives with them, just like the rest of us. My relationship with Robert is healing, slowly, with small steps. We don't talk about the past all the time, but when we do, he listens. He really listens. Mum, how did you do it? He asked me once. How did you let me go knowing you could lose me forever? Because loving you meant letting you learn, even if it hurt me. True love doesn't hold on. True love lets go when necessary. It must have been very difficult. It was. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it was also the most important. Now when I watch him play with Ethan on my patio, when I watch him teach his son about responsibility and respect, when I watch him being a better father than the one he had, I feel proud, not because he came back to me, but because he grew. And that was all I ever wanted. Ethan is growing too. He is an intelligent, sensitive boy. He tells me his dreams, his fears, his questions. The other day he told me, Grandma, my mum says you're mean, but I don't think you're mean. And what do you think? I think you're strong. My teacher says being strong sometimes means saying no, even if it hurts. Your teacher is very wise. Is my mum ever going to like you? I don't know, my love, but that's okay. I don't need everyone to like me. I just need to like myself. I like you, Grandma. And I like you, my dear, more than you can imagine. Now, every Sunday, I prepare coffee for Robert and hot cocoa for Ethan. We bake cookies. We go to the park. We do the things I could never do during those lost years. Is it perfect? No. Robert and I still have difficult conversations. There are still awkward moments. There are still scars. But we are healing, together, but also separate. He in his process, I in mine. And Ethan is the bridge, the reminder that even in the most broken relationships, there can be redemption. A week ago, Robert brought me something. Mum, I found this cleaning. It was that photograph, the one of him at 6, with the gap in his teeth, under the magnolia tree. I thought you had lost it, I said. I hid it. After what happened, I couldn't look at it. It reminded me of everything I had lost. But now I want you to have it, because you are the one who deserves it. I took it, looked at it, and no longer felt pain upon seeing it. Thank you, son. Mom, I can never give you back all the lost time, all the years I made you feel invisible, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the son you deserved from the beginning. You don't need to be perfect, Robert. You just need to be present. I will be. I promise. And this time I believed him, not because his words were different, but because his actions backed them up. Now, sitting on my patio this Saturday morning, with my coffee in hand and the sun caressing my face, I think about everything I have lived. I think about the Eleanor I was, the one who begged for love, the one who accepted crumbs, the one who made herself small so as not to inconvenience others. And I think about the Eleanor I am, the one who chooses herself, the one who sets boundaries, the one who knows her worth. Do I regret saying no that night? Never. That no saved me. It saved my dignity. It saved my peace. And curiously, it saved my relationship with my son. Because only when I stopped begging could he appreciate. Only when I stopped chasing could he return. Only when I let go could we both heal. If my story helps someone, if a single woman reads this and understands that her worth does not depend on how much she gives, but on how much she respects herself, then it will all have been worth it. Because I learned something fundamental in these 2 years. You cannot love someone else more than you love yourself. You cannot give so much that you have nothing left. You cannot beg for a place in someone else's life while abandoning your place in your own life. True love includes boundaries, includes respect, includes reciprocity. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is letting go, not with hatred, not with resentment, but with the faith that if something is meant for you, it will return. And if it doesn't return, it is because it was never yours. My son returned, but even if he hadn't, I would be fine, because I finally found what I had been looking for all my life in the wrong places. Peace. Not the peace of having everything resolved, not the peace of a perfect family, but the peace of knowing who I am, of knowing my worth, of walking with my head held high. This morning, Ethan will come to visit me. He asked me to teach him to make biscuits, like the ones I used to make for his dad when he was a child. And I will teach him. I will tell him stories. I will show him photos. I will give him all the love I have. But I will also teach him something more important. That respect is sacred. That love is not begged for. That it's okay to set boundaries, even with the people you love. I will teach my grandson what I couldn't teach my son in time. That being kind doesn't mean being weak. That being generous doesn't mean letting yourself be used. That you can love with all your heart and still not lose your dignity. That is the legacy I want to leave. Not money, not property, but wisdom. The wisdom of a woman who learned, even late, that self-love is not selfishness, it is survival. And if you are reading this, if you have been through something similar, if you have been the mother, the wife, the daughter, the friend, man, who always gives but never receives, I want you to know this. You are worthy, even if no one else sees it, even if no one else recognizes it, you are worthy. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to choose yourself. It's not revenge. It's not punishment. It's self-love. And the world needs more women who love themselves, who walk with dignity, who know their worth. Because when a woman rises up, she lifts up her family, she lifts up her community, she lifts up the world. I rose up, and if I could, you can too. Thank you for listening to me until the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the bell icon to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next time. The doorbell rings. It's Ethan. I get up, I smile, and I go to open the door, not to a past to beg for, but to a future to build with dignity, with love, with wisdom. I am Eleanor Johnson. I am 57 years old, and this is the story I kept for too long. The story of how I lost my son to find myself, and how, by finding myself, I was finally able to recover him, not as before, but better, with respect, with boundaries, with true love. And that is what every woman deserves.